This is my Lego town, and it's basic. And tons of things are happening. There's the blue building. I'm good at Legos, and I have ADHD, and I kind of have trouble thinking of some ideas. I have thought organization problems sometimes.
12-year-old Brad Beecham loves Legos, playing outdoors, and showing off his treehouse.
Okay, so this is my treehouse. Inside. It's totally awesome.
He's also been diagnosed with ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. The National Institutes of Health estimates as many as 4 million children in the U.S. have ADHD.
I have a lot of trouble staying on track with homework, so I might get distracted. About 1 out of every 5 minutes, I'm probably distracted with homework, so it takes me a long time.
However, Brad's imagination has been vivid ever since he was very young.
You know, he was so out of the box and so verbal and so creative. He was always thinking about how things work and why things don't work, and just a really, really deep kid.
Like sometimes if I'm supposed to be writing an essay about glasses, I'd be thinking about talking wolves, eating cabbages, sitting at a dinner table.
His poems show that deep side too.
There's a party under my bed, and I was not invited. Between you and me, I was delighted. I got sad, then I went mad. I got so scared, my vocal cords blared. I kicked off the covers and looked under the bed. Here's what I said to those horrible monsters in my head. Be quiet!
Between the laughter and frustration, Brad and his family have learned to focus on the positive, letting the creative drive the agenda, like this Lego movie, directed, produced, and starring Brad Beecham. With treatment and special classes, Brad is making great progress.
You want to tell them what your grades are?
My grades in school are 4 A's and 2 B's.
9-year-old George Beecham loves to play guitar and show off his Lego models.
What about this thing? Another Star Wars thing.
George is also diagnosed with ADHD and Asperger's syndrome. His family focuses on his talents, both musical and creative, to keep George on track and build his self-esteem.
George will do things like rest his head on the guitar and listen to the sounds. And the teacher the other day tried to show him these complex chords, and George's fingers weren't long enough. So while the teacher was playing the chords, George said, "Keep playing." George put his ear down, and with two chords, with 2 fingers, George was able to replicate the sound that the teacher was doing by hitting the 2 chords and bending the notes. And he now plays some of the songs with his eyes closed because, as he says, I can hear and feel the music better. And his instructor told me the other day, "Hey, listen, I know you told me that this kid has ADHD and Asperger's, but, you know, most of the great musicians or inventors in this world, they were out-of-the-box kids. You know, they were like this. And I think your kid has a gift."
Hi, my name is John Bosworth. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in St. Pete, Florida. I'd like to talk a little bit about signs of attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I joke with a lot of my colleagues and even some of my clients that I think there's times when every male could be diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. And by that I mean most of us at some point in our lives, whether we're really excited about something or we're stressed about something, actually list a whole constellation of the behaviors associated with attention deficit disorder. So some of those signs, really, the main ones that most people think of are impulsivity. There's a lot of hyperactivity or fleeting from one task to another. There's losing things, losing homework, losing reports if you're an adult. And there's also the symptoms of being easily distracted. But on the other side, there's also the symptoms of not being able to kind of attend to the present moment. With a lot of adolescents, I might see that they're really locked onto a video game. And sometimes people can say, well, they don't have attention deficit. They can lock onto their video game for 5 or 6 hours. But that's actually a symptom of attention deficit. And it's not because they're not able to lock on, but they over-focus, and they get over-focused on things that are pleasant or things that they like to the detriment of schoolwork and some of the other things in their life that parents and teachers would like them to do. So there's also a couple other things I'd like to mention, which trouble organizing tasks and activities, very impulsive, doesn't wait their turn in line, easily distracted, blurts out answers before questions are actually given. So these are some of the signs of attention deficit or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. My name is John Bosworth.
But how can we manage ADHD in the classroom? How can we maximise attention spans and make lessons go more smoothly?
I think the short answer to that is that you have to make every lesson an experience. ADHD is a complex condition, as you've alluded to, really, and I think what we are talking about are a range of symptoms that manifest themselves in many ways. And I think it's always important to make distinction that there's no such thing as ADHD children. They're just children who have varying amount of symptoms that we classify as fitting within the ADHD spectrum. So I think, obviously, without sort of not giving a specific answer to a specific question, you really do have to tailor the particular issues towards the particular needs of that child.
Sure.
Without sort of going through the whole diagnostic criteria, of which there are 18 symptoms, the 3 core symptoms are impulsivity, hyperactivity, and inattention. And every child who manifests the symptoms that we are alluding to will have different degrees of hyperactivity, different degrees of impulsivity, and different degrees of attention. So I think essentially it is about determining, which of those features are seen as most problematic, and also which is seen as most opportunistic, because I think we always have to make the point that these are students that react differently to different circumstances, and some of their differences can also be very positive indeed in classroom setting.
I am an open book. For me, it was like an awakening, you know. Finally, there was a name for this thing I had all my life where I thought I was different, and turns out I'm not so different because tons of people have it.
Davina is talking about her own experience with ADHD. She was already a mother of 2 when she was first diagnosed. Her sons Brad and George also have ADHD. According to the National Institutes of Mental Health, if a parent has the diagnosis, the risk of their children having ADHD may be as high as 54%. While Davina knows that brings challenges, she likes to focus on the positive.
I have this wild imagination that races all the time. And I think if you can tap into that great things can happen.
So she passes that philosophy onto her children.
You know, one day, my kids were sitting at the kitchen counter, and George was in kindergarten, and he said, "Mom, what is odd?" And I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "Well, because Max says I'm odd." I had to think about it because, you know, I kind of think he knew it was maybe wasn't a good thing, you know. But I said, well, you know, odd means that you're different.
As an accomplished artist, Davina says she's determined to give different a creative twist by encouraging her children's talents and telling them,
if you ever heard of Einstein or Mozart or, you know, Bill Gates or Steven Spielberg, you know, ever heard of them? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, you know what? I heard that those kids were kind of odd when they were little. And you know what? When those odd, different kind of kids grew up, they did great things. So if anyone tells you you're odd, you just keep your chin up.